Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm Gambol the Clown, and thank you for tuning into the Suburban Sideshow podcast with me, your host, Gambol the Clown. Please subscribe to my Facebook and my Instagram and my YouTube as well, because I post a lot of great content and a lot of public events where you can come hang out with me and get free balloons, comedy, and magic. And I also do parties, weddings, funerals, any events where people are gathered together. And be sure to stay tuned, as sometimes I do stand-up comedy at the Idiot Box Comedy Club in Greensboro, North Carolina. You can find them at idiotboxers.com. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about Stephen King and his book, It. This has been one of the most influential books in the history of the world regarding clowns and scary clowns, and the term coulrophobia, which means the irrational fear of clowns. A recent study came out that said that over 53% of adults have this phobia, coulrophobia, a fear of clowns. When the movie came out, uh, clowns gathered together and protested all over the United States because they said that this movie would be so influential they would lose business. And as a professional clown, I can tell you the only way to overcome a negative view of a clown is by being a positive view of a clown. So we're going to talk about the book today, and it is quite an interesting book. This year is the first year I have ever dared to read it. I saw the 2017 remake of it and decided that I really wanted to read the book to read the whole story. And I'll be quite honest with you that Stephen King is an amazing author, and there is no way that you could make the movie any more terrifying than the book. I've only seen parts of the original movie when it came out, but we're going to talk today about the book and a lot of issues it brings up. So the first issue it does bring up is the issue of bullying. We're going to talk about that as well. But before we get to the book and these issues, let's talk about a brief biographical sketch of the author Stephen King. Stephen King was born in Portland, Maine in 1947. He was born in the year when Jackie Robinson signed to the Dodgers, and there was a lot of very interesting things that happened that year. The first instant camera was demonstrated, which became the Polaroid camera. So it was a very interesting year in 1947, just coming right off of the Second World War, and it was very influential. And the years were during that time were very influential in the United States, as families were growing into the 50s. You had families, people moving into suburbia, and it was a great shift in what was happening in our culture. His first book that he was able to successfully get published was Carrie in 1974. And the publishers published the book, and it became so popular, they told him, they said, listen, you don't have to do all of this teaching and all this stuff anymore. Like, you can make it as a professional author. So all the way back in 1974, when the first book published, Carrie, is when he started becoming a professional author. Since then, he has written around 74 books, and about 60 of them turned into a movie. The most popular book is The Shining, but the book we're talking about today is It. The famous Pennywise the Clown, the book It, is second in its popularity. Now, the top 10, the most popular Stephen King books are first The Shining. I wonder if you guys have seen that movie adaptation with Jack Nicholson. Very interesting and terrifying movie. Haven't read the book. Second, number 2 is It. Number 3 is his first work, Carrie, came out in 1974, and number 4 is his 1987 book, Misery. Famous from the movie with Kathy Bates. Very terrifying movie there as well. Number five comes in for his 1978 work, The Stand. As a kid, I remember they turned this into a mini series that came on TV, but it was about a battle of good and evil in a bioweapon apocalypse. So uh, that was a really weird book. They had Randall Flagg, who represents evil in a battle of good and evil in Vegas. In doing research, I come across this thing where Stephen King said that he wanted to write a book like Lord of the Rings, and The Stand is sort of his answer to that. I'm not sure how he makes the connection. Uh, Number six is Pet Cemetery, and that book came out in 1983. The movie that is really terrifying. Uh, very interesting, but very terrifying. Number seven, Salem's Lot, 1975 book about about vampires. His book about vampires. And number eight, The Green Mile, that came out in 1996. Again, I've only seen all these movies. The only book that I've read is it. But The Green Mile was a very interesting movie with Michael Clark Duncan and Tom Hanks. Number nine of most popular books is 11/22/63. It came out in 2011. It's about a time traveling man that witnesses the JFK assassination. I'm definitely have to check that out. Number 10, rounding out the list, is his Dark Tower series. It's a series of books from 1982 to 2004, and many of his fans regard this as his magnum opus. My favorite of the Stephen King stories, or the Stephen King books that became movies, is Christine, about the demon possessed car, and that comes in at number 11, and that was written in 1983. So, getting back to the issues related to it, the biggest issue that I found, the central theme of the book is about bullying. The bullies in this book, as we will see, are quite possibly the most horrific and the most grotesque and the most brutal band of bullies I have ever heard about in my life. So bullying is a central theme of this book, because not only do these kids have to handle a supernatural bully, but they have to handle human bullies that are supernaturally empowered to make their lives miserable. So, uh, in the United States, the Pew Research Center has done quite a bit of research about bullying, and on their website, it talks. There's nine facts about bullying I'm going to bring up and we'll discuss before we get into the book. So, first of all, bullying is among parents' top concerns for their children, according to a fall 2022 Center survey of parents with children under 18. About a third, 35% of U.S. parents with children younger than 18 say they are extremely or very worried that your children might be bullied at some point. Another 39% are somewhat worried about this. Of the 8 concerns asked about in the survey, only one ranked higher for parents than bullying. 4 in 10 parents are extremely or very worried about their children struggling with anxiety and depression. So on here, there is really a lot of statistics about bullying, but they make this point at the outset that this is a chief concern for children in school. Well, number one is struggling with anxiety and depression. Number two is being bullied. Uh, Further down the list, at the bottom of the list, is getting in trouble with police. Uh, Getting shot is down on the list. Having problems with drug or alcohol. And number three is getting kidnapped or abducted. So on this list, these are the chief concerns. And number two is being bullied. And number one is struggling with anxiety and depression. Number two, about half of U.S. teens, 53%, say online harassment and online bullying are a major problem for people their age. according to a spring 2022 Center survey of teens ages 13 to 17. Another 40% say it is a minor problem, and just 6% say it is not a problem. When you look at, when you think anachronistically, meaning taking what we have now and taking what we read now and trying to view it through the lens of our experience, this book was written in the 1980s when people didn't have the internet and weren't threatened by cyberbullying, which is an enormous problem because here in this book, I mean, you can run away from these bullies, get away from them and go hide or, go home. But if you are being attacked on the internet, there's really no escape. Like, it's just constantly 24 hours a day. Number 3, nearly half of U.S. teens have been cyberbullied. The survey asked teens whether they had ever experienced 6 types of cyberbullying. Overall, 46% say they have ever encountered at least one of these behaviors, while 28% have experienced multiple types. Physical threats, explicit images, spreading false rumors, name calling, constantly being asked where they are, what they're doing, or who they're with by someone other than a parent. So, the internet presents, a great opportunity for us, to learn about each other, to have these really cool conversations, but at the same time, you can't escape it. So, bullies make effective use of the internet. Number 4, older teen girls are especially likely to have experienced bullying online. Okay, so in the 2017 movie remake of It begins by, teens in a high school bullying girls in a bathroom bullying. And that is pretty crazy. Okay, so it says 54% of girls ages 15 to 17 have experienced at least one cyberbullying behavior. 44% of boys in the same age group and 41% of younger teens. So girls, unfortunately, have experienced cyberbullying to a higher degree than boys. Number 5, they break down into different racial groups, and it says 21% of black teens say they have been targeted online because of their race or ethnicity, compared with 11% of Hispanic teens and 4% of white teens. So, one thing that's really great to know is that, or bad to know, or great to know, whatever you want to look at it, is bullying does not discriminate. Most people are going to get bullied, or they're going to be a bully, and we need to bring it to a stop. During the 2019-2020 school year, around 2 in 10 U.S. middle and high school students said they were bullied at school. It's around 20%. Number 7, the classroom was the most common location of bullying that occurred at school in 2019 to 2020. Number 8, fewer than 46% of middle and high schoolers were bullied at school in 2020. Number 9, finally, it breaks down into different demographics. So there's gay, lesbian, or bisexual, twice as likely as their heterosexual counterparts to say they'd been bullied both at school and online. Okay, so we've got the brief statistics out of the way. Bullying is a huge problem, and when I read this book, I learned quickly that Pennywise the Clown was the least of the concerns out of anything presented in this book. This book is extremely brutal and not for the squeamish, definitely not for children. And you should really be very cautious if you're going to engage in reading this. Now, this came out in 1987, so it's quite amazing. Okay, so the plot of the book, a brief overview, is that you have 7 kids who go and fight evil that appears as a clown. And then they defeat it when they are kids. They make a promise to come back to the town of Derry, Maine, if it ever comes back. And they all link back up again to defeat it. And at the end of the book, they defeat the evil and the town collapses. There you go. That is the very brief plot synopsis. So let's get into the cast of characters. Okay, first you have Bill Denbrough. Bill Denbrough is Georgie's older brother. Now, if you remember the famous scene where there's a kid racing his paper sailboat down a flooded gutter and into the storm drain, where Pennywise comes and confronts Georgie and bites off his arm. And that's how the book opens. Georgie is Bill Denbrough's younger brother. In the movie, they have him as missing, but in the book, he is found with his arm severed. Second, you have Ben Hanscom. Ben Hanscom is a youth, overweight, bookworm, nerdy, hangs out at the local library, very interested in stories and the history of the town. And he grows up to be wildly successful, very brilliant architect, one with the ladies, and a very interesting character in the book. Third, you have Richie Tozier. Richie Records Tozier is a he's the class clown of the group. Even when they're fighting evil, he makes jokes, makes everybody laugh. Richie Tozier is my favorite character because he grows up to be a successful comedian and DJ. Very great public figure. Fourth, you have Eddie Kazbrak. Eddie Kazbrak is a hypochondriac who is ruled by his mother, who is a helicopter, and a very interesting character there. Beverly Marsh, the girl of the group. Beverly Marsh, very difficult home life. Her stepfather is very abusive to her, and she grows up and marries a guy named Tom, who also abuses her as well. So that's a brief about her. Then you have number 6, Stanley Uris. He is Jewish, really great guy, really sort of timid, but really great guy. And he is the one who makes the pact where they cut their hands and they make this blood pact to come back if the evil returns and kids start disappearing and dying. Finally, we have Mike Hanlon. Mike Hanlon is the African-American guy who runs the library. He's the only one who never left Derry, Maine, runs the library, and a very interesting character as well. He's the guy who calls everybody back when all the stuff starts happening. There's murders again, and he starts questioning the police, and the police are like, hey, knock it off. This is silly. So then he calls everybody back and says, oh, we need to go fight this evil. When he calls everybody back, everybody comes back except Stanley Uris. As soon as he gets a phone call, he goes upstairs and commits suicide in the bathtub. So those are the main central characters who are tasked with fighting evil. Now, I mentioned the bullies. Now, these bullies are quite possibly the most insane and vicious bullies I have ever heard in my life. Number 1, Henry Bowers. Henry Bowers is the most and like in these movies, there is no way that they could make these bullies as evil as they are written in the book. It is ridiculous. Number 2, we have Patrick Hotstetter, Belch Huggins, and Victor Chris. These are Henry Bowers' main group. There's a few more bullies that are named in the book, but they don't really have a role, so I left them out. Okay, so Henry Bowers, he learned how to be a psycho from his dad, who is recorded many instances of being insane. And he's got a problem going back a generation. His dad had a problem with Mike Hanlon's dad. So, when you're in a small town, there's all these, serious, all the serious drama that erupts, and this is the central focus of all this. So, I mentioned all these statistics, all these people that are bullying. Every aspect of any demographic that is being bullied is a subject of somebody in this book. Uh, there are a few interludes throughout the book to give the history of the town, and one of the interludes is about how there were some homosexuals that got murdered by people that didn't. They got murdered by bullies that didn't like them. Mike Hanlon's dad, Will Hanlon, was a soldier in the military at a post there, and they had this issue where they didn't let the black soldiers hang out with the white soldiers, so they had to make their own black nightclub, which became famous because it was very good. They had a lot of great jazz, and it burned to the ground. And then Will's dad saw it, and then he recalls these stories. Then all their parents recall these stories of, like, very tremendous trauma. So really interesting stories, but definitely not for kids, and definitely not for people who are sensitive to that sort of thing. Finally, there's so much that can be said about this book. The need for being tough, the need for standing against bullies, because in many ways, the group of these people, they had no problem getting together to fight the supernatural force of evil, and then we're frightened by human bullies. So, very interesting relationship as what's going on there. Now, a little bit about Pennywise, because it does give some insight into Pennywise the Clown. So Pennywise's real name is Bob Gray, and Bob Gray was a professional clown, and he entertained people at the local bar, doing all kinds of strange things, flips, balancing coins on his head. But he's known as the dancing clown, so that was his claim to fame. So there's really not a lot of history about that, but the whole premise is that evil appears to children as a clown, as a welcome. The clown is supposed to be the representative of the best of society. The clown is a comic relief. The clown is the satirist. The clown is the person that brings people together. And Stephen King made the clown representative of the worst part of humanity. So in this book, Richie Tozier, who's the jokester, he's always talking trash, always getting into trouble. And whenever they have an issue with fighting evil, no matter how beat up they are, Richie Tozier always comes out with some sort of funny joke and brings people back to focus on and lighten the mood. So there's a scene where they're in the sewer, fighting it, and Richie Tozier makes jokes, and they all start laughing. So, even in this book, it's proof that the clown, the comedian, should be the representative of the best member of society. And Stephen King takes this, inverts it, and makes clowns a negative and scary image. So, when I began this, there's clowns that used to show up and protest this stuff. But I'll be honest with you, it's hard to be scared of a clown that's funny. So, if you are afraid of clowns, I get it. I understand, because clowns historically are an exaggeration of society. So why we wear, the funny faces, make the funny faces, wear the loudest clothes, is because we are here to exaggerate and make fun of society, which is an essential part of society. So in this book, uh, the worst element is the bullies. So it's real funny and real fascinating to me when people get cranked up about how they are afraid of clowns, but then at the same time, they're not exactly looking to protest bullies, which is like the biggest focus of this entire book. So this book is very interesting, definitely not for the squeamish, and a very difficult read, and a very interesting read as well. Hope you guys really enjoyed this little review of the book It. Uh, I don't want to tell you the ending of it. If you are interested in reading it, I will say that it is quite the interesting ending. When they get to what it is quite strange and very unexpected. So I'm not going to reveal the spoilers, other than the fact that good triumphs over evil. They destroy it, and they destroy the town, and everybody moves out of Derry, Maine. So hope you guys enjoyed this little short little episode. Uh, a clown's review of the book It by Stephen King. Big props to Stephen King. Amazing author, very interesting book. Enjoyed it a lot, but we definitely don't want to make a negative view of clowns. We want a positive view of clowns where children laugh and adults laugh, and we make fun of the stupidity of society. Until next time, this is Gambol the Clown. Thank you for tuning into the Suburban Sideshow podcast with me, your host, Gambol the Clown. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well, and look for my other episodes on Spotify. Until next time, this is Gambol the Clown. We'll see you later.